Coming up on Oxford Weekly News, a local high school program that's giving teachers their morning coffee while helping special education students.
But first, an update on the Oxford Police's ongoing investigation into 2 drug-related deaths. Welcome to Oxford Weekly News. I'm Katie McDonald.
And I'm Hannah Jolly. Thanks for joining us. Police are now concerned that a compound drug of cocaine and fentanyl may have been used hours before the death of Oxford residents Megan Dawson and William Vollmer. Although it will be another few weeks before the coroner's office officially announces toxicology results and the cause of death, the Oxford Police Department is treating both cases as overdoses.
One of the things we're investigating is where did they get the substances from? Did those substances, can we positively identify those substances as causing their death? And then, of course, who supplied those substances? So, part of that is looking at the people involved and where did they go. And so I can't really say all the information we know at this point, but that is what we were working on.
Both of the victims did know each other, but police say they were not in contact the night before. Jones says the police chief in Hamilton has reported an increase in the use of compound drugs. If you have any information, please contact the Oxford Police Department.
The Miami University community is remembering one of its own, senior Ainsley Wagenseller. I spoke with Ainsley's friends about their loss and how they will remember Ainsley. Ainsley was traveling from Oxford to her hometown of Louisville, Kentucky when she passed away in a fatal car accident. Ainsley was a 5th-year nursing student at Miami University and a bartender at Uptown Bar Brick Street, a job which she loved working. On March 27th, after spring break, her parents, Linda and Judson, and 3 sisters, Jordan, Aubrey, and Shelby, hosted a memorial service for Ainsley at United Methodist Church in Oxford, followed by a celebration of life at Brick Street. Her friends continue to praise her spirit and smile.
Ainsley was the most kind-hearted soul person I've ever met, and you couldn't talk to her without her smile being contagious, and that's what I'm gonna miss most about her every day. And it seems like there's a little less light in the world without her here, smiling and dancing all the time.
She was such a bright smile. I would always see her out. She was so genuinely kind, and she just radiated positive energy.
Ainsley was also the president of the Miami University Diabetes Network, and her parents set up a memorial fund at the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation of Southwestern Ohio.
Oxford officials believe a malfunction in a mini refrigerator caused a house fire over spring break on North Bishop Street. The fire destroyed the home, displacing 4 Miami University students for the remainder of the semester. The home was demolished within 48 hours of the fire. Oxford Fire Chief John Detheridge says the quick demolition should help avoid problems like what happened in the aftermath of the Fiji House fire nearly 4 years ago. That building sat vacant for 2 years before reconstruction.
And it was a pain. There were drunks climbing a fence, drunks getting through the fence, going into the house. The cops were having to send the dog in to get them out and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want anybody getting into what was left of that house and getting hurt.
Miami officials helped the tenants of the home find a new place to live once they arrived back in Oxford after the week-long break.
Oxford's fire department was awarded $200,000 grant after applying to January to the Ohio Local Government Capital Safety Grant Program. The money will be used to purchase a new tankard pumper fire truck that will have 2,000-gallon water tank, allowing the department to part with 2 older pieces of equipment. Fire Chief John Detheridge shared the news with Oxford City Council at its meeting on April 4th. The City of Oxford is among 49 recipients granted money in the state.
Miami University Police train community members for a scenario they hope never happens in real life. MUPD hosted an active shooter training in Shriver on April 6th. Officers taught the ALICE method to those in attendance. ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. The event was designed to help students and community members be prepared and learn their best options for survival in the case of an active shooter. The message from organizers is to run and escape if possible, hide if escape is not possible, and fight only as a last resort. Oxford has seen a lot of warm weather this spring, and while it may feel like it's nice outside, not everybody's happy about it. Angie Riffle has the story. Angie?
Thanks, Hannah. I spoke to Miami professors this week about what this increasingly warm weather means for Oxford's plant life. Springtime at Miami University is typically celebrated by a rainbow of leaves and petals, but this year, spring may be a little less green thanks to the early warm weather. David Gorchov, a biology professor at Miami, has already seen some problems developing.
The timing of flowering depends on how warm the spring and maybe the early summer has been. So if we have a really early spring, these are going to flower earlier. These are going to flower earlier than if we stay cool. A lot of people are concerned about a mismatch between pollinators and flowers.
If a plant buds early, then a cold spell strikes, frost could kill the new growth. This means that fruit trees may not be able to produce fruit, or flowers may fall off. Most plants that are native to Ohio are used to this spring weather. However, botany professor Daniel Gladish is worried about the long-term effects these trends may have.
If you have a really warm spring and spring starts sooner, you may have an extra hot summer and maybe a drought in the middle of the summer that's extra long. And that's a trend that our native plants are not adapted to. So we'll just have to wait and see if what we're observing is simply weather anomalies or a long-term global climate change trend, which I frankly suspect is the case.
And Gladish is not alone in his suspicions. Several scientists from Miami are scheduled to speak about climate change and environmental protection at the Oxford March for Science. The event, which is a satellite of the March for Science in Washington, D.C., aims to voice concerns about the government's science policies. It will be held at the Slant Walk on April 22nd. Dustin Hornbeck, a doctoral student at Miami, organized the event.
Well, I think that our biggest threat right now is global climate change, and countries and governments not taking steps needed to mitigate the problems that are being caused. I mean, sea levels are rising, and I think that it's just a real issue that's going to impact us in later generations.
While sea levels may not seem like an imminent threat to Ohio, the threat to bees and flowers is enough to raise concerns for Dr. Gorchov.
The concern is if we don't mitigate greenhouse gases, we're going to see more and more climate change and more mismatches between plants and pollinators and between plants and late season frosts.
Gorchov says that protecting wildlife diversity around Oxford can help plants and pollinators to thrive, even in adverse conditions. Scientists expect global temperatures to continue to rise, but botanists at Miami hope that Oxford residents can help them combat the effects one plant at a time. Katie?
Residents living on Cedar Drive and East Chestnut Street are petitioning to expand their Neighborhood Conservation Act, which would mean up to 2 people who are unrelated can live in a house together. Otherwise, it is reserved for families. The Neighborhood Conservation Act was first enacted in 2012 and had 15 parcels. It was created to protect the privacy of residents living in Chestnut and Cedar Drive, as well as minimize noise congestion and prevent excess traffic and parking in the neighborhoods. The new act would add 6 more parcels to the current Neighborhood Conservation Overlay District, making the total 21. The petition passed and will be discussed at the next Planning and Commission meeting on May 9th.
The plans to build a brand new Oxford Town Pool have begun after a 9-year stall. Casey Woodall, the director of Oxford's Park and Recreation Department, met at City Council April 4th to discuss a top features list for the new aquatic center. The top 3 include a lazy river, separate pool for the swim team to practice, and slides. The department had originally met with contractors who proposed a $4.4 million project in 2006. But after the recession hit in 2008, the plans were put on hold. The current pool is 42 years old, and over the past 4 years, the cost to the city has been more than $90,000 for annual water heater and facility issues. Woodall will soon meet with the contractors to get an updated price for this 3-year project and expects to begin a fundraising campaign this summer. The new pool is projected to be finished for the 2019 summer season.
Morning Sun Road sidewalks are about to get a facelift. The McCullough Hyde Tri-Health Hospital has donated $140,000 to the City of Oxford. This donation will further the hospital and city's goal to encourage wellness within Oxford and the surrounding communities. The project will begin this summer and will run along Morning Sun Road, connecting Sycamore Street to Kelly Drive. Mike Dresbach, Service Director for Oxford, says to expect the finished sidewalk by the end of this summer.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the NBA's all-time leading scorer and a 6-time NBA champion, visited Miami on April 3rd to talk about more than just basketball. He gave a speech at Hall Auditorium called Beyond Black and White, where he addressed the racial and religious state of America. In his talk, he shared his personal experiences with Miami students on his experience as an African-American man, Muslim, and retired NBA basketball player.
As an athlete, I've seen how sports has done great things because people come together around sports. And people that you might not have ever had the chance or opportunity to talk to, all of a sudden you see them at the tournament. They don't look like you. They come from a totally different background, but you have something in common. And they shot a jump shot in your face. So you got to do something about that. And that's how you get to know people, okay? Sports opens up doors for people and makes people have to deal with each other.
Jabbar's Hall Auditorium speech was a sellout with over 700 people attending. Coming up on Oxford Weekly News, new information about a former Talawanda athletic director accused of mishandling school funds.
Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Oxford Weekly News. A former athletic director owes the Talawanda School District $5,750 in missing school athletic ticket revenue. Jamie Mahaffey, who resigned in September 2015, was cited in an Ohio auditor's report for not depositing the entire amount of ticket revenue from August 2014 to April 2015. No criminal charges against Mahaffey have been filed.
It's not uncommon to start your morning with a cup of coffee, but Talawanda High School students are having more than just a kickstart. Greta Morris has the story.
They're part barista, part delivery men, and Talawanda High School students. Twice a week, the coffee cart is open for business. Students from Talawanda's special education program are heading the cart. Teachers can sign up to have coffee, prepared how they like it, delivered to their first period class. To some, the program might just seem like a nice treat for teachers, but the program aims to do much more.
It allows the students to provide a product and a service and some soft skills, interacting with people they don't normally interact with.
Fitzgerald started the coffee cart after seeing the success it had at other schools, and students were quick to catch on.
And I have a lot of students all come in and they ask, Ms. Fitzgerald, can I help with the coffee cart today? Can I help with the coffee cart? Are we doing the coffee cart today?
While the coffee cart is helping students now, the skills they take with them last far beyond the 4 years of high school.
Now this is something that they can use the skills to then work in the community, in our other jobs, to then hopefully get into other programs when they get out of high school or go into employment opportunities within the community.
That was Greta Morris reporting. The coffee cart currently features just coffee, but Fitzgerald hopes to see it expand into treats like muffins and pastries as well.
The old Kramer Elementary building is now part of the past and much sooner than planners expected. The demolition began in mid-March and was supposed to last until late July, but the demolition of the school is about 6 weeks ahead of schedule. Demolition crews are still working to remove the foundation, but all other parts of the building have been removed. The land will eventually be used as a parking lot for the new elementary school. The first steps for laying down asphalt on the plot will begin the week of April 10th. Talawanda High School women's field hockey team is facing elimination. The possible change comes as the school considers adding a girls' golf team. Title IX requires that schools offer an equal number of men and women's sports. The addition of the women's golf would require the elimination of another women's sports team. Field hockey was selected for possible elimination as it is the smallest women's program with 9 returning players. A decision can be expected as soon as the April 26th Board of Education meeting. Coming up on Oxford Weekly News, we discuss Patch.com reporter Laura Fitzgerald's story on addiction and recovery.
Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Oxford Weekly News. I'm Hannah Jolly. We're joined now by Laura Fitzgerald, who published a story on Oxford's Patch website as a student reporter about Butler County's growing drug problem. Laura, what inspired you to write this story?
Well, I was trying to write a story about an opioid task force that was being talked about in the city of Oxford, but that fell through. And then I tried to do a story on an opioid task force that was being talked about at the state level, but that also fell through. And I kept seeing in the news about the heroin and the drug epidemic, and everything I kept seeing was a lot of stats and figures. So I really just wanted to tell like a personal story of somebody that's actually been through addiction so that you could see what it's really like to go through that.
I think it serendipitously fell into a really good story then. You really told a very personal story. It was moving, I think. What surprised you most about this story while writing it?
I think just how prevalent it is. In Oxford, we don't really see it as much because we have such a large student population that really, it's not as much of a problem among the student population, so it's not as hard hit as other areas like Hamilton or Middletown. But we still do see it. A couple people died 2 weekends ago from a cocaine overdose in Oxford, so it's still prevalent here. But just how prevalent it is, this affects everyone. This affects mothers and daughters and sons and coworkers. And also just a statistic that really surprised me was for the past 2 years, the number of overdose deaths has outnumbered the number of natural deaths in Butler County.
As such a large problem in Butler County, what will Butler County's biggest problem in tackling this issue be?
I think a really large problem is just reaching people, because when you're stuck in addiction, you're stuck. It's a disease and it's very, very difficult to get out of. When I was driving around on the ride along with Jennifer Mason, who does the opiate task force, who reaches addicts where they are, they kept just calling people and trying to reach people, but it was still very difficult to do that. So I think just trying to reach people and get them help is the hardest part of this epidemic.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Laura. You can read Laura's stories and other stories about our area on the Miami University Patch site. Go to patch.com and search Miami University Oxford. Back to you, Katie.
Fashion is about to hit the runway on Miami's campus. Miami University Fashion and Design will be hosting its 11th annual fashion show in Millett Hall on Saturday, April 8th. The show is the largest student-run show in the country and will feature over 100 designs made by 22 student designers. MUFD members are ready for their semester's hard work and preparation to make its big debut.
When you walk down the runway, like with my designs, there is no feeling like it. Like it is like so built up and you're like, okay, like I'm just gonna walk. No, it is something so much more powerful. And so I'm like looking forward to walking down there, and like the past 2 years, like that has been like just like the best feeling.
Tickets for the show can be purchased online at mufashiondesign.com or at the door. The show starts at 7:30. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Katie McDonald.
And I'm Hannah Jolly. You can watch us online on our YouTube page. Search Oxford Weekly News.
Also, connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Oxford Weekly News.